Hey y'all. Happy Friday. I scheduled this one a long time ago, but it's because today is unfortunately the 20-year anniversary of Mara Murray being missing. It has been 20 years to today and still no clue where she's at. So that's what we're going to talk about here for a little while and just kind of break down. This was also the first missing persons case after social media launched. And I think it shows a very big level of kind of where true crime missing persons cases have came with social media. You're good, Revival. You do whatever you need to do. Let's be honest. Thank you so much for the super sticker, too. I didn't see that earlier, so hopefully you'll get this one, but thank you so much. Hey, Stonefly Blue. Okay, so we're just going to hop into it because I do want to try and get another live done before the end of today. There's so much going on, but this case is truly interesting. Have any of you followed this case? Many of you know what this case is. This case, like I said, has been over 20 years. It has been commentated on, covered. There's an entire podcast dedicated to this. All of the news stations in the last 24 hours have been cycling through the reports. They actually did. We're going to get into that and just show that right quick. So we're going to kind of start with the news. Hey, Feisty. Hey, Perry. Hey, Miss Leah. You haven't followed this one? Stonefly Blue. This is an interesting story, and it's unfortunately it still sits unsolved. Still no word. So we're going to play this news clip. This is recent, and then we're going to kind of walk backwards so you guys can kind of get a gist of what we're talking about.
Today marks 20 years since a UMass student disappeared. She crashed her car in New Hampshire, never heard from again.
So we're talking about Maura Murray here. Authorities have generated this image. It's the image of her on the right to show what she might look like today. She'd be turning 42 years old soon.
She's the same age as me, just a little bit older, a few months older than me, but that kind of hit me too. It's 20 years, but this is the age progression photo. In this, they say that she would be about 41 years old. This is what she potentially would look like. Again, she crashed a car. We'll get into all the details. There's been so much that has been gone through in this case over the last 20 years.
Our Alicia Palumbo is in Hanson this morning with how her family is taking new steps to try to solve the case.
It was February 9th, 2004. 21-year-old UMass Amherst nursing student Maura Murray of Hanson crashed her car on Route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire, suffering minor injuries. By the time police arrived on scene, her car was still there, but Mora had vanished.
I do believe the case is solvable. We just need the few puzzle pieces that are missing.
Now, 2 decades later, the FBI created this age-progressed image of what Mora could look like now, and her sister Julie has created this podcast.
The mysterious disappearance of Maura Murray is a story that's been told hundreds of times by strangers. But absent in the story you've heard are the voices of those who knew Maura.
In Media Pressure, the untold story of Maura Murray, Julie takes control of the narrative, breaking down the details of her sister's case from a perspective only she has.
The goal is to reach somebody who might come forward with information, to maybe jog someone's memory, to get the public talking about this missing woman.
Julie says her family has never stopped searching for Mora, and they hope this podcast could be the catalyst to solving this case, even if that means sharing their visceral insights and the emotional roller coaster they've been on for 20 years.
There were many times where I was interviewing my dad and my brothers, and we were just breaking down in tears, and it was very emotional. But at the end of that, it was this collective sigh of relief, thinking we finally did it. We gave Maura a voice in her own story.
In honor of the 20th anniversary of her disappearance, Mora's family, friends, and members of the public will be gathering tonight from 5 to 9 p.m. in New Hampshire, near where Mora was last seen, for a vigil. They'll also be lighting candles at 7:30. In Hanson, Alicia Palumbo, NBC 10 Boston.
This is the Dollamore Daily.
All right. Take that off the screen. This has been an interesting case. Hey, Britt. Hey, Kathy P. Feisty, I hope you are too. I'm having a great week so far. Busy week, but great. I finally got my driver's license switched to Arizona. So one thing in the right direction. This story in itself has been told so many times. If you look on social media, and I encourage you to do so, you will find video after video after video. The year anniversary, everybody seems to come back out and do videos. It is seriously been so interesting to go back and deep dive on this case, because there's been a lot of theories that have been put out by a lot of people. The family, like they said, they've now came out and started a podcast. But the one thing there's so many things to me that have just, there couldn't be. There's a theory that, okay, so she wrecked her car. Let's go back to the date, what actually happened. So she wrecked her car on a road that's not very highly traveled. It is traveled, but it's not heavy traffic. There's homes around. They're kind of spread out a little bit. There was snow on the ground. And by the time the neighbors called for help after they saw that the car was wrecked, in the time that the police got there, there was a 6 or 7 minute window. There was a bus driver that came across her. 6 to 7 minutes. And in that vicinity, there's always been these theories of possibly she wandered off. Maybe she had been drinking because she had been seen buying booze before that. Maybe she wandered off and died in the elements. As many people have been in that area searching, you would think they would have found something, like some sort of clothing by now, some sort of shard of evidence. There would have been something. Somebody just doesn't go missing and all of their clothes disintegrate, all of their belongings disintegrate along with them. I don't know. There's just so much to this. So we're going to go a little bit further here. Let me go back here. I want to find another video.
Today marks 20 years.
Go back. Okay. I had another video that I wanted to show you. This one was done a year ago. And this is it's called Very Local. I'm not going to play the full thing, but I'm going to show you guys this breakdown a little bit, because it's really well done. In fact, it's very well done. I'll link it in the description when I'm done.
This was the first case that really took on a life of its own on the internet.
It's a unique case because...
And why they're saying that is because this was the first missing person case after Facebook launched. Facebook launched, this case happened just like that. So this was the first missing persons case that social media really grabbed a hold of. And it was all over Facebook. If you go look on Facebook, it's actually really interesting to see how this case has been exploited, in my opinion, over the years. But what the sad thing is there's been so many people that have told this story, so many people that have built entire channels, podcasts, just off of this story and trying to find answers. But there's still no information. There's been a psychic that has gotten involved in this. We'll get into a little bit of that. But this one in all of them was really well done.
Because of the short window when she disappears. She's seen by people and she's gone.
police finish another day in the search for Maura Murray with more questions than answers.
2 days,
10 days,
1 year,
8 years,
10 years,
15 years.
Almost 20 years later, where is she?
And there's been a lot of people that have passed away that were involved in this story. Unfortunately, her mom passed away. One of her sisters has passed away. The bus driver has passed away. There's been a lot of things that have happened over 20 years. You can just imagine where, look back 20 years. I was 21 years old. Think about how much your life has significantly changed and all of the different things that have happened in those 20 years. By the way, I don't know whose channel this is, but I've been watching the crap out of a lot of their videos. They are really well done.
I hear your voice for once, it's full and clear, not just a memory left to disappear, and your smile, so full and bright, no longer hazy and distorted, an image lost to memory's fading light. So I ask, is this real? Could this be real? I know that time is short, it's just a dream, but in this moment you're so much more to me than just a distant, fading memory.
And some backstory on this case, she wasn't just a rambunctious teenager. She was in nursing school. She had attended West Point. She had a loving family. There was some, of course, because of her missing case, everybody dug into the family and every theory you could possibly believe or they could run with about the family has been exploited to the 10th degree on this story. But there has been so many different things that have been stated. AMAC, this story is just, this one has always caught my eye. It was one of the first missing persons cases I ever really even heard of on Facebook, but it was years later. I didn't have Facebook until 2009. Hey, Devious. So it's just interesting to see how the progression of one of these stories that has been told so many different times and nothing has ever come of anything. She's still missing 20 years later. Today is the anniversary of her going missing. And she had a lot ahead of her. Like she, you know, they always go into was the fiance, the boyfriends, the family, the friends, everything. It is, she did. So she dropped out of West Point. She had used the stolen credit card when she was in West Point. There was obviously some issues going on. There was some stuff going on with her, but it wasn't like she was just gave up on everything after West Point. She got into nursing school. She had had a conversation with her sister the night before. They were a little concerned about her because she was concerned about her sister. There's just a lot of things that transpired that, so the theories, if you can only imagine a day in your life of like at 20, 21 years old, right? All of the stuff you were doing at 20 years old, going missing. Kenzie and I actually talked about this too. And all of the different theories that could be dismantled off of a day in your life or like emotional upset or anything at 21 years old. The theories have been extensive. But anyways, let's continue on a little bit. This is, like I said, I'm not going to play this whole thing, but this channel does great deep dives.
Maura was my little sister. Our family grew up in the South Shore of Massachusetts. And growing up, she was always cracking jokes, making fun of my parents.
Julie is the one that has the podcast of the untold story of Maura Murray. I encourage you to go listen to that too. They are trying to tell their side of the story, what they know, their theories.
Which was hilarious.
They've never given up. That's one thing I've got to say is nobody's ever given up. They still are trying to find their sister, their loved one.
Making fun of me. But she was really caring. So when I was stationed in Korea in the military, my first year right out of West Point, she would always send me care packages and write me little letters.
Maura Murray was just someone who was really smart and athletic, gifted as a student and also gifted as an athlete. And she ran cross country and track and had set records at her school and in the state.
Maura followed in my footsteps and she went to West Point. I would tell her and write letters saying, you know, how much I thought she would enjoy it, mostly because of the physicality and as well as the academics. I knew she would excel. Once she got to West Point, she did not enjoy that part as much as I did. So she decided after 2 years that she was going to move on and pursue a nursing career or nursing program at the University of Massachusetts, which is quite a big pivot from being an Army officer.
I thought this one did a really good job of highlighting who she was as a person. Oftentimes, the victims, we see the victims become the missing aspect of their stories.
The day that Mora went missing was Monday, February 9th, 2004.
That morning, Maura Murray sends an email to her professors, says there's been a death in the family, when in fact, that's not true. She packs up her room. She gets into her car. She has a number of belongings with her. She heads to an ATM. She withdraws most of her money that was in the account out. She goes to a liquor store. She buys a number of bottles of alcohol, gets in her car, and then heads north. But it's really not.
Okay, so you heard what he stated. She sent an email to her professors that a loved one had passed away, which was not true. She withdraws money from an ATM. She goes and buys bottles of booze. And that's where things start. Hey, Rachel, good to see you. Thanks for joining me, you guys. This is just a story that is something that I wanted to highlight a little bit more about.
Not clear where she's going. The reason she left campus is a mystery. Now, what's interesting is investigators end up finding on her computer that she had mapped out a route to Burlington, Vermont, even though she never ended up in Burlington. She does have connections to New Hampshire.
That's an area that my family has vacationed our entire life. So Maura's been up there.
It's a road to Bartlett, where I'm sure she was going, because she knows it like her backyard. Because we were in New Hampshire so much, at least 4 times a year.
About 4:30 is the last known phone call that Maura made, and it was a call to check her voicemail. From 4:30 to 7:30, there was no activity on her phone, and we're not really sure what happens during that
So 3-hour window where there was no activity on her phone.
time.
She ends up in New Hampshire in a small town called Haverhill, and it's a really windy road. She ends up going off the road and crashing her car.
So she crashes the car that she's driving. Now pay close attention. If you have never heard about this case, this is where it gets really interesting.
We know at 7:30 there was a call in from a resident, and they said there's a car off the side of the road, and there appears to be somebody in an accident. And then another resident came home.
I just asked her how she was. She said she was shaken up. I couldn't see any blood on her.
So people had contact with her. Neighbors in the area called after the crash. People had seen her, stopped and talked to her.
Face, and she was shaking like this. I says,
Bus driver.
okay, I'm gonna go call the police.
This is the one encounter that we know of that Maura Murray actually has with someone up there in New Hampshire. She says she's already called AAA. Well, this is a remarkably remote area of New Hampshire with limited cell service. Even
She stated to them that she called AAA. There wasn't service in the area. Had she been drinking? That's been something that everybody speculated about for a long time.
back then. So there's no way
That gentleman was the bus driver.
that she had called AAA.
So that was a red flag for him.
But there was still a call placed to authorities because the neighbors called.
Within about 7 to 10 minutes, the first 911 call, the first police officer arrived on scene.
7 to 10 minutes. from the time the call went in till the time they get there. Somebody saw her, spoke to her. She states she had called AAA already. Think about that. And there was snow on the road. There was still snow in the area. So if she would have wandered off, in my opinion, they would have been able to find her tracks, right? They would have been able to track her through the snow. Kind of a desolate area. They claim that the only person that came upon her that actually had communication with her was the bus driver. Okay. Again, this video is done so well because they don't miss anything so far. I mean, there's a whole lot of speculation, but this is factual stuff.
And he arrived to a locked vehicle with nobody around.
The car had been locked.
And that's where the nightmare started.
And again, this is an ongoing case. If you or somebody you know knows anything, lived in the area, this gets to anybody that knows anything, please say something. This family deserves to find her. It's been 20 years. They deserve to have closure. They've never had any closure on this. And so many people have passed away without any closure on this.
When the police come back, Maura Murray has disappeared.
What happened after that remains unknown.
By the time the police had gotten there, she has disappeared. So in the window between, now let's narrow that down even a little bit more. Because, hey, Chico, good to see you. Hey, Chris, between the time frame of the bus driver leaving and the police getting there, she's disappeared. Neighbors had sight on her. One of them said they turned around after they called, but by the time they went back, they didn't see her any longer. Within minutes, she disappeared. A lot of people have thought that a car picked her up potentially, but they didn't see any vehicles. Nobody saw any vehicles driving down the road. None of the neighbors reported seeing a vehicle. Could they have had their lights off? Could there have been, there's just so many questions, but the time frame of this is so short. And the snow on the ground, if she would have wandered off and died in the elements from she drank too much, she was trying to avoid, they would have been able to track her footprints, in my opinion. They would have also, if she died in the elements, found clothing at this point. Something would have been found. That's what I think, at least. I'm not going to tell you my theory yet or my feelings on it, but I wish the bus driver wouldn't have passed away. That's one thing for sure. Because that just, him seeing her, talking to her, the report of calling AAA, which we know she couldn't have done because her cell phone didn't have service. There's just so many missing pieces here.
The first responding officer did notice some peculiar things at the scene where the Saturn was found, such as a rag in the tailpipe. There was some red liquid, which may have indicated that she was drinking.
A rag in the tailpipe and some red liquid.
And there was a cracked windshield.
Not blood.
And both airbags were deployed. I don't understand why they didn't do more that first night, because if she had been drinking, if she did hit her head, she was in great danger,
That's one theory that has always been something that people have talked about. Was she confused after the car accident? Did she hit her head? Did she have some sort of head injury and lost all knowledge of where she was, disorientated? But then I go back to the fact that she stated she called AAA. She talked to the bus driver. He said he didn't really notice anything disheveled about her.
Because it was cold, it's February, it's New Hampshire, there's 2 feet of snow on the ground, and she didn't know that particular area.
She doesn't take.
She just said, the sister said 2 feet of snow on the ground. AMAC, right? I've been thinking the same thing all along. This is the craziest story to me, that there is nothing. Yeah. Kathy, I'm so sorry about that. That's horrible.
Take everything when she leaves, but she does take some items. Inside the car were other belongings that she had, including some of her books and some equipment that she had, and also some alcohol that she had purchased. So not all of the alcohol, but at least some of the alcohol.
Everything that was found in a car was indicative of her just trying to get away and clear her head, although I can't be for sure because I don't know why she went up there.
So they did feel that she was trying to just get away.
There was no sign of Mora the next day or even that night. There was no sign of her at all. There was no footprints in the snow, nothing.
So there's confirmation. Again, no footprints in the snow, 2 feet of snow. That would be impossible if somebody wandered off and just died in the elements. They would have found something. They would have found snow prints, 2 feet. Somebody would have sunk down in. There would have been tracks. You can't avoid it. Yes, AMEC, I have. Yeah. In fact, I should point you guys in that direction. That is a great breakdown, the Oxygen series on this. What has it that anybody that's followed this, what are your feelings on the bus driver? Tell me what you think.
She just disappeared off the face of the planet in 7 to
Hey,
10 minute
Bear.
window with people watching her.
It just doesn't make sense. How does Maura Murray just disappear?
Into literal thin air. No trace. No other vehicle was seen. No other screams, no cries, no nothing. The bus driver says he talks to her, no tracks. In a matter of moments from the time they called 911 till the time the dispatched officers got there. Oxygen did a great breakdown. This story has been covered extensively over the 20 years, extensively. There's 2 gentlemen that do a podcast on this that are actually really, really interesting to listen to, and they've covered it forever. I encourage you. If you like real mysteries, this is one that's really sad.
Nobody in my family was notified.
Chris, there's actually so many good ones. I could list hundreds. So many people have done excellent breakdowns on this story. I just went back to this one because it's very factual information. It's from the sister's point of view. So family, not crazy speculation and theories and everything, like very fact basis. And it was only from last year. This channel did an excellent job.
That Monday. It wasn't until the next day, Tuesday, law enforcement got a hold of my older sister, Kathleen. Kathleen called my dad, my mom, everyone, me, asking, why is dad's car up there? Where's Mara? Why is she at school? And no one had any answers. So it was panic and then just chaos and then back to panic. Those crucial hours from Monday night when the car was found until Tuesday, we consider those a missed opportunity because it was crucial. If she was around that area, that 24 hours was when, her trail was hot.
I think the family was frustrated with the investigation right away. They just felt that the police were not taking it seriously.
There's also been a lot of questions, and I'll be truthful, around the officers dispatched to the scene. There's also been questions about them. Everything has been thrown on the table with this one. When I say everything, I mean everything. Yeah, Chico, I was only 21 when this happened. I just turned 21.
That they just assumed that Maura disappeared because she wanted to disappear, and that they weren't preserving this as a possible crime scene.
Kathy P., he's unfortunately passed away.
Mara was 21 at the time, and it's not a crime to go missing, and so they didn't treat it as such. My dad arrived about dawn on Wednesday. He wanted to join the search, so he went to the police station and said,
Fred has been drug over the coals through this case.
Where's the search? Where's my daughter? What's going on? What do we know? And my dad essentially was the search because they hadn't done much of anything.
eventually. It took them quite a while to search the location.
We've been going through the woods and we're just looking for somebody just to come out and say something.
We're also asking the public who may have driven by the scene of the accident that night to please give us a call if someone saw her and gave her a ride, because it would give us a better last known area where she was.
If anybody actually saw her on the road that night, did not see her, drove the whole road, did not see her, call us, because now we know that she did not go down there, and she most likely accepted a ride, and we're considering other locations.
I say all the time that we have to keep everything on the table until we find Mora. So I'm not going to completely rule out any particular theory. Scent dogs followed Mora's scent about 100 meters down the road, and then her scent disappeared in the middle of the road.
The scent disappeared in the middle of the road. That's a huge thing too. They followed the scent down the road and it just stopped in the middle of the road. The theory that she potentially got into a car with somebody, a vehicle, but who was waiting for her? Who would have known? Did she get in with a stranger? You would think the people in the area would have seen lights of another vehicle in the area. There's just so much to this that doesn't make sense.
So many theories out there, but none of them have been proven. We don't know what happened to Maura Murray. Where is she? Did she disappear because she wanted to?
Could she still be alive today?
Did someone commit foul play? Did she die in the woods? We just don't know.
Everybody's here looking for you. Just call any one of us. We'll come right down and get you. Don't be afraid, please.
Look at the old Facebook boards.
Mara's disappearance happened 5 days after Facebook launched. Initially, the internet was great for raising awareness. I don't know that we'd ever have the amount of coverage as early on as we did. So we're definitely thankful for that. That was the start of true crime when we had all the people talking in forums and you had this ability to...
Can you imagine? Think back. Think to where it is now, what we see in the true crime arena. Think of this case days after Facebook launches. It's the first big missing persons case that gets put on social media. Think about all of the different things that has happened. You can only imagine. And what you're imagining, the possibilities, the speculations, the theories, the mistruths, the misinformation, all of it, the bad side of social media. You go from great, you're getting awareness out, to the bad side. Try a 20-year case that social media has never forgotten because it was the first case. And how much has happened to this family because of it. When I say Fred was tortured by social media, that's an understatement. Chico, right? I know, that's what I keep going back to. I'll be honest, I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist at all. But either she got in a vehicle with somebody unknown, or somebody knew something and isn't saying something. Somebody saw a vehicle, recognized a vehicle. Maybe they had their backs turned. Maybe they didn't report fully. Oh, well, actually, I did run to the bathroom. So there was a point in time when I wouldn't have seen if somebody came by and picked her up. Everything. James Renner. Oh, yeah, that's a deep dive in itself just there.
To actually make a difference in these cases. And there are armchair detectives that were able to piece things together and be a positive influence on cases and help investigators.
When you have so many people like that sharing information, it also breeds a lot of different theories, a lot of different narratives, and a lot of misinformation for whatever reason it is, because it's such a mystery, because there are so many unknowns. It has attracted so much attention and so much interest from around the world.
Kind of reminds me of hearing that explained like that, the Summer Wells case. And unfortunately, we've seen the worst of the worst. Imagine being the first missing persons case after Facebook launches.
And it's created this atmosphere online where people have put out their own theories, where they've speculated, where they've wondered what really happened to her.
People are able to hide behind fake accounts and anonymous trolling. It's been very difficult for my family to try to slow that down and correct all of this misinformation that's out online. We've got all this coverage, and my family is thankful for that, because the way that these cases are solved is through awareness and through engagement. However, that comes with a cost, and the cost is exploiting the tragedy and exploiting Mara herself and exploiting my family and anyone that tries to help.
That is very true. And that coming from, I'm going to drop this channel. Hold on really quick. Coming from a family member that has lived through this. This video comes from the channel I'm dropping below. They're actually live right now. I don't know whose channel this is. I found this channel by researching this case, and I was so impressed with how this was laid out and really picked up the points that I felt were really important. The exploitation of the family, the crazy speculation, and the wild theories. Yes, there is help that can come from armchair detectives. There's things that getting eyes awareness is huge on a missing persons case, but it becomes very dangerous too, because sometimes, as we've seen in such cases as Summer Wells, Quentin Simon, so many of them. I mean, even the recent case in Texas, the crazy theories, Michael Vaughn, what's happening with that right now, all of it. There's no end in sight, which is really unfortunate.
I think the frustration hit the boiling point for the family, and they decided, you know what, we're going to try to grab hold of this narrative, and we're going to create this website where we can put information out there that we vet and that we believe is factual. And so it was a way for the family to sort of regain ownership of Mora's story.
You won't find much clickbait or any clickbait on the website.
This is just part of overturning the next stone to see what's under it.
Fred went off social media for a while and stopped participating in interviews and stuff. So then, as you can imagine, social media deemed him to be somehow related or associated to this. He was drugged through everything potential that you can imagine. Meanwhile, her mom was fighting cancer, ended up dying later of cancer. Her brothers were younger. Just the entire thing, like madness. And I'm not even highlighting the extent of how bad this got, because I just want to keep it concise. But still to this day, people still talk about this case and put out misinformation.
But it's incredibly hard, and it's terribly frustrating.
Fred Murray has been frustrated since the day his daughter disappeared with the response from police. And ultimately, he wanted access to the records. And so he went to court to try and obtain all the records in this case. And this is a battle that went all the way to the state's highest court in New Hampshire.
In his mind, if they're not going to use the files, we were doing it. We were actively investigating it. We wanted to see the files. We wanted to see her computer. We wanted to see, who they've interviewed.
This also reminds me of the case in Kentucky, and now the name just slipped my brain. Her dad was killed a year after he was shot. She went missing, and then her dad was killed, and they just finally arrested somebody, I think recently, her ex-boyfriend or whatever. I don't think they've ever arrested anybody on her brother's or her dad's case. You guys know who I'm talking about? Why did the name just slip me? It'll come to me in a minute. But her case was also highlighted recently too by many people, and people have ran with crazy speculation on that one. There was also, in that one too, you have an officer that had been killed, a mom and a young daughter that had been killed, all within a shorter amount of time in the same vicinity. So people were linking everything together. There was no stone left unturned. But the dad in that case too, he had been boots on the ground from day one when she went missing alongside the highway. He had found and tracked things down, like a white car, where the white car was found. They didn't even get a lot of help from law enforcement at first. Law enforcement kept everything close to the vest, but wouldn't let the dad. So the dad did his own investigation on that. Then he ends up shot and killed.
In areas, not that would hurt the investigation, but would help, supplement it.
Shouldn't the state at the very least concede that it's a criminal investigation? I gather the state hasn't even done that.
We cannot, with 100% certainty, say that a crime has been committed.
I think she was picked up by someone who did her harm. I tend to think she's no longer with us because she hasn't reached out to any of us.
You keep it a missing person case forever. You never have to say anything at all about what you did.
We want to be sure that when we find out what happened to Maura Murray, that if it involved a crime, that we can bring that person to justice.
The court stood by the fact that the investigators were saying that this was an active investigation, that this was an open investigation, and therefore they did not want to turn over all these records.
They released some records, but they're mostly redacted. They didn't help us much in any way.
So once again, a dead end for the family. Law enforcement dropped the ball within the 24 or 48 hours right after she went missing. Nobody really searched the area. There's a very sporadic information.
My dad, he led the boots on the ground effort, and he would go up there every weekend, a lot of times by himself. And during that time when he was up there, he'd get a lot of local rumors.
There's your positive right there.
The dog lays down.
Yes.
And one of the local rumors was Mara was buried in a basement.
I'm going to let it go a little bit further. I wasn't even going to play this far, but I think you guys are all understanding the craziness of this. They did such a good job on this video too. All credit to Very Local. This is great video. Again, don't know whose channel it is. I've watched a few of their videos so far. Everything's been great. Very factual because it's taking the words of the family members, the actual news, police reports, stuff like that, and breaking it down, which to me is important instead of wild speculation and theories and stuff. Look at the time frame there on the jump. 15 years later. There was also a psychic brought in. Keep that in mind.
I remember talking to Fred Murray at his house here in Massachusetts, and just the agony he was going through, that he felt this is something, this is legitimate evidence that a cadaver sniffing dog is picking up on, yet the authorities are ignoring it. This was a house that the family said they had never had access to in the past, but now there were new owners and they were finally able to access this particular house that was in the area. The cadaver sniffing dogs go in there. 2 different dogs went in there and seemed to hit on this area, indicating that something might be buried in the basement.
It tells me that my daughter is buried there most likely, and that I'm powerless to dig her up and bring her home and give her a proper burial.
That was excruciating, waiting. I remember getting into screaming battles with my dad about him wanting to, pursue it one way and me wanting to pursue it another way, and what can we do? And
Remy, yes, dead ends everywhere, unfortunately, and today is the 20th anniversary.
How can we force them to, see if this is Mara buried in this basement?
We did a number of stories on this, and ultimately the authorities agreed that they would go in and excavate that area.
There's always a level of uncertainty with something like this. I am optimistic that we may have finally found her. That's the only thing I could pray for.
The next thing we know, there's a press conference being called.
Here I am driving as fast as I can up to New Hampshire, heart beating, and they said we're going to have a press conference at 2 p.m. And so I thought, this is it. Like, they found her. This is it. Because the dig couldn't have taken 4 hours. They must have found her.
A team of over a dozen agents and detectives went into that basement. They cut that area, removed the concrete, and then searched several feet down and covered the entire area and beyond where that disturbed ground had been. and they located absolutely nothing other than a small piece of what looks to be potentially pottery, maybe a piece of old piping.
I was sitting next to my dad at the time, and you could just see his whole body just deflate. It was hard to watch because he thought that was it.
I remember watching.
I can't even imagine the disappointment that would have been. 2 cadaver dogs hit.
Watching Fred Murray at that press conference, and he was so frustrated.
This one hurts because I thought we finally had it. This one is worse than the other false alarms or dead ends.
I was kind of relieved because I really didn't want to have to face the reality of Mora being buried in a cement basement so close to the accident scene. But at the same time, it's like another false hope, like no answers still.
We'll just watch it because this is so good. This is one, yeah, I think people just need to remember the harm that can be caused. Still, you know, she's still missing. Somebody knows something. There's no way somebody doesn't know something. Somebody has to know something. She didn't just disappear into thin air. The initial search, the dogs, they traced her scent to the middle of the road. She didn't just vanish into thin air. Somebody knows something. Why did the police? This is from a channel called Very Local Remy on YouTube. Her channel, Julie's podcast, is called The Untold Story of Maura Murray. Mora. This is just by far my favorite podcast of recent or video recently done on this because it's very factual and has an excellent timeline from the sisters' perspective too.
Family has gone through one waiting game after another. We're going on 20 years now of waiting for them to figure out where Maura Murray is. So in 2021, human remains are found in New Hampshire in an area around Loon Mountain. And so once again, there's hope on the family's part that maybe these remains will bring some answers.
I almost fell over because Loon Mountain is about 25 miles from where Maura's car was found. It was just a whirlwind of emotions and thoughts and thinking, oh, this could be it, you know? So that waiting period was, again, excruciating. Just sitting there waiting, could this be? And then your mind starts to go and think of all the reasons why it could be and how you missed it. And then I got an email from the Assistant Attorney General saying the results were in and that the bones were in fact outside of the date range that could have been Maura. So again, you know, another gut punch for my family.
Another dead end.
We've become accustomed to not getting too hopeful when we hear news like this and losing too much hope. So it's also a fine balance.
Am I realistic? I don't know, but I'm not gonna stop hoping that.
We saw Fred Murray desperate for answers back in 2004 and wondering where his daughter is. And then we see him 5 years later, 10 years later, 15 years later, and we see that pain, that anguish that he and his family have gone through, and still the not knowing what happened.
He keeps slogging away.
They've never given up hope.
Same as always. They're not no quit, you know. The only way Maura's coming home to be buried is if I bring her.
There are times when I'm just with him alone, just random times when he'll just say something that's, you know, man, Maura would have loved this, and it's those moments that really get me emotionally. The number one thing that I want people to know is she's still missing. You know, after all these documentaries, after all this talk online, after all these years.
After 20 years of every single thing possible you could imagine being dug apart, every single person she knew, every potential person in her family, the theories, the speculation, boyfriend, everybody, there's still no answers. Still nothing after 20 years. 20 years. Fred has never given up hope.
We're still no closer. Mora is still missing. It's been 18 years.
And today makes 20. Today is the 20th anniversary, and that's why I just wanted to highlight this case, because to me it's important that the families' voices are heard. They still don't have answers. They still don't have closure. Granted, even if they found, closure, I guess probably isn't the right word, but they deserve answers. Everybody deserves to be brought home. Every missing person deserves to be brought home.
The Murray family is so committed to figuring out what happened to Maura Murray.
They'll have another vigil tonight too.
2 awesome brothers, and my sister Kathleen just passed away, so and my mother passed away, and my dad's getting older. There's people that are they're passing away without ever knowing, and that's sad. We know Mora, we know each other, and we know that we're not ever giving up no matter what.
Please. I think people in both states, Massachusetts and New Hampshire, have rallied around the family from the beginning. And when you look at some of that footage from back in 2004, where you see people from the community coming up and searching in the woods and continuing to go up there year after year, really just trying to offer support to the family and also to help try to figure out this mystery. What always strikes me is their willingness to talk about the case. But then as you listen to Julie Murray talk about her sister, you realize that she believes the only way that this case is going to be solved is to continue talking about Maura Murray. Any bit of information can potentially solve this case.
I don't have the choice to walk away. I can't close my computer and not deal with it. Like, I deal with it.
Unfortunately, she is amongst so many families that have never gotten answers.
Every day, and I don't have a choice.
I'm going to leave that on the screen right here. I didn't even plan on playing that whole thing, but it's so well done. It's so factual and kind of a roller coaster of where the family, what they've been through, all the different leads that have gone nowhere. And when I say the speculation in the armchair detectives in this case, it has been extensive. Search her name on YouTube. You'll find video after video for 20 years back. Facebook, same thing. There is so many, but today marks 20 years that she's been missing. 20 years and no answers. She deserves to be brought home. Now I'm going to go back to, let me switch screens here for a moment. I want to go back to, and I'll share this I shared this channel in the description, or not in the description, in the video, but I will also put it in, I'll link it to the description when I'm done. Where is this? Oh, I want to highlight this again.
Yeah, Jamie, the AG.
All of the news stations locally in that area are doing articles on this because, again, today makes 20 years. But I want to leave it with this photo. So if anybody in that area, if you have family in that area, relatives, somebody knows something, you guys. This is one of those that there has to be somebody that knows someone. She did not vanish into thin air. Is she still alive? I don't genuinely feel that way myself. Some people believe that. Some people believe that she disappeared willingly and wanted to start a new life. I would think it would be really hard in 2024 to just, 2004, okay, technology wasn't quite here, But after the 20 years of this being social media's first real big missing persons case, and 20 years of some of the best crime investigators, armchair detectives, law enforcement, retired law enforcement, the people that have covered this have credentials way longer than my legs. My legs are really short, but so many people have given time and effort to this. People who worked for the Secret Service have helped the family. There is so much that has been turned over in this story, and nothing has been found. This is truly one of those. Yeah, right, AMAC? That's the other thing I keep thinking too, with her sister Kathleen and her mom passing away. I don't, you just never know, but somebody knows something. There's not a chance in hell somebody doesn't know something on this. Somebody saw something. She had minutes to disappear from the time her car was wrecked till the time law enforcement got there. She had snow. There was snow. The dogs tracked her to the middle of the road. She didn't just up and vanish. I encourage you to, if you're in the area too, to support the family. They've gone through hell, and social media has put them through hell. And that is an understatement, to say the least. The dad was made to be the suspect by most people for a period of time. And that's a very major understatement of how they treated Fred.
AG's office says they hope this picture of what Maura Murray could look like today will help generate new leads in the case. Take a look at this on your screen. On the right is the age progression photo.
She would be 41 years old right now, turning 42. She's my age.
Released by authorities. On the left is a photo of Murray from just before she disappeared when she was 21 years old. The Attorney General's office asked the FBI to make this new photo ahead of the 20th anniversary of her suspicious disappearance tomorrow. Murray disappeared after a car crash in Haverhill on Route 112, February 9th, 2004. She was a nursing student at UMass Amherst at the time. A man in the area says he spoke to a woman believed to be Murray after the crash, and he called police. But when police got there, Murray was gone. Anyone with information about Maura Murray is asked to contact the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit. And coming up tonight at 6.
And it's been put in the cold cases. So I'm going to put it back to the age progression photo and leave it there for closing out. Hey, Mark, good to see you. Running Bear, I agree. In 2024, with everything like closed circuit TV, it would be, Kenzie and I were talking about this yesterday. We had a huge long discussion on our way home. We had a bunch of stuff to do yesterday, and we were talking about if like somebody went missing, how hard it would be. What says? Okay. It would be really hard to just willingly disappear. You would really have to have it planned out, because does it happen? Yes. But 2004, yeah, technology, like I said, wasn't up to par on some things, but Facebook launched days before this case. So social media was catching up over all of these years. Somebody knows something isn't saying something. That's my opinion on it. You guys what are your guys' opinions before we get out of here? I just wanted to highlight this one. I'm keeping this short and sweet because I just want to bring attention to her face. I want to bring awareness to the fact that this is 20 years. Social media has done everything they possibly could and more to this family, and no leads have ever turned into anything. A psychic was brought in. There's a lot of controversy around that. The trail has just ran cold completely. Law enforcement didn't really do, in my opinion, that well of a job to begin with. They didn't really take this car crash very seriously, didn't search the area, considering you have a young girl out there, could have had head injuries, alcohol around. There's just something. Yeah, Rita, this one has just been, and nothing, like there's still nothing. Which I don't believe there's still nothing. There has to be somebody that knows. Could there be more than one person? If somebody told somebody something, the family deserves to know. I think AMAC, I feel like she did too. I don't know. I always, thank you, Rita, so much. Yeah, Running Bear, that's a good point, because people that have been trespassed from Walmart, they put a picture of them in their little folders or whatever, and they can recognize them when they come into stores. I know that from Diana Ricky. That happened. Thank you so much, Rita. Welcome to the cabana to all of you. But this is something that I just wanted to bring awareness to and attention to, because I'm sure there's other channels doing stuff on this today, hopefully more. But I think it's a good reminder of she's still missing. I'll put it full screen so you guys can see this. Any questions before? Thank you, AMAC. Correct, Remy. Yep, she could have been disorientated. Absolutely. It's never set well with me, I'll be honest, with the bus driver. The bus driver has never set well. The fact that, he talked to her and then he was just gonna leave. I don't know. There's just something there. He has passed away too, but would you just leave if you found a 21-year-old girl? I think about myself. And if I came along, somebody that had wrecked at that time in the cold, I don't know if I would have left. I think I would have sat by until law enforcement got there. I don't know. Just seems kind of odd to me. There's just so many things that just are odd. There is a lot of things that are odd. The fact that there's no track whatsoever. I would have stayed with her too. He has a C. I'm assuming they had CBs in the bus at the time too. Not really. Yeah, true. Would it be hard to establish an identity? That's true. But you would think that DNA, fingerprints, could you avoid 20 years without having your DNA, fingerprints, or being recognized by somebody with how much attention this case has got? I mean, maybe if you went out of the country. In 2004, would you have had TSA wasn't near what it is now? I mean, there is possibilities. Hey, Smiles. It's just really crazy, though. In 2024, with as much attention as this case has gotten, it would be hard, in my opinion, to be in the States and not recognized if she still potentially was out there alive and did disappear on her own. All in 1, 2, 3, 1. But still, let's take that theory for a second. Somebody helped her get out of the area. Somebody knows something. Who picked her up? Her trail went cold right in the middle of the road. Her scent was tracked to the middle of the road and disappeared. She had to have been picked up by somebody. Again, that's my theory. I'm not involved in this, but you could, yeah, Remy, you're right. In 2004, yeah, somebody has to know something. She's a beautiful, yeah, she was gorgeous, Smiles. Absolutely gorgeous. She was. It's just one of these cases that it gives me chills thinking about it, because it is really one of those cases of somebody knows something. Somebody has to know something. There is no ifs, ands, buts about it. Your scent doesn't go cold in the middle of the road when there's 2 feet of snow and there's absolutely no tracks anywhere around. I encourage you to go listen to her sister's podcast, Julie's podcast. I've only listened to a half of an episode so far, and it's great. There's 1,000,001, and that's an understatement, of videos on YouTube, Facebook. There has been so much discussion about this. The local news channels to their areas are covering it. You'll see a lot of it popping up in your feeds, hopefully getting the word out there again, because today is the 20-year anniversary of her disappearance. I just wanted to bring this one back around. We've talked about Tanya Whip from Florida, her being missing. I'm going to start doing some of these more often, of older ones, like cold cases, ones that are not really talked about much, or they've just really not gotten much attention. And highlight some of these because there's so many. People talk about all the active cases, you know, right when somebody goes missing, but so many families have no answers. They have no closure. There's so many people that have been missing for years. Locally to me, just in Arizona here, we have so many missing persons cases that have been here since the 80s, the 70s. And it's heartbreaking to think those families, a lot of them, you know, family members have passed away. Tragedy strikes, you know, things happen and they never get answers. And once they're passed away, who fights for finding out answers? It's just sad. Missing Maura Murray is a good podcast too. Miss Leah, is that the two boys? Is that the one? I can't remember the name of that one. Cold cases do, Remy. Yep. I think it's a great idea. You could do cold cases nonstop. And it definitely needs to have attention. There's so many missing persons cases. Okay, Miss Leah, that's it. Timmy and Lance, that's the two guys. They've done incredible. They're actually not terrible into the exploitation, but their podcast has followed all of it, and they followed some crazy leads, but they've really helped keep attention on this case for a long time. All right, y'all, I'm gonna get out of here. Again, please go check out Very Local. That's whose video I used for this. Great, informative, straight to the point, highlights the facts, the family. I think that's super amazing too. I was super impressed with that because you know how so many like to exploit things here and there. I will be coming back in a little bit. I want to talk about some of what's going on with the Down the Rabbit Hole news and some things that are going on with Scientology, ex-Scientology community. And we will be back later to discuss all of that. See you guys after a bit. Thanks for joining me. Have a good day, y'all.